With the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World finally being released, it's about time I do a challenge in it. Now, of course, I've done some color challenges in mainline Mario games, but what if we bring that over to this franchise? So we're gonna start this just like how we did many months ago. Let's go through every track and see how fast you can touch the color red. To cover the rules, the colors of the character, the cart, and the items will not count. We are only looking at the main tracks themselves. Also, all of them will be played in time trials, so the paths that we travel to go between tracks will not be looked at. Well, for the most part. I'll explain later, but I think that covers it. Let's start this with the first cup. Starting off with Mario Bros. Circuit, and here's what we do. We drive forward until we see something red, and it appears the first thing on our path is the outline of the track. It did seem quite common for this game to have red and white stripes on the outside, but you know me, I had to be particular, and it looks a little dirty and maybe a little too dark to be red. There is some other stuff we drive on throughout that I think is acceptable, but to me, the most clear and most fun option is to fly into the sign and touch the Mario letters. That's a solid start, but let me show you something else red. This wonderful subscribe button right here. Okay, yes, I know the one down below is a different color, but if you really want to help make my day, go ahead and give that a click and like this video. I really do appreciate it. Alright, to the next course. Second track is Crown City. We start on the bridge, and this one is very easy. There's just a lot of red poles that go to the ground. This seems about right for this one, but Whistletop Summit is a bit harder because the red on the walls at the start is too high to be able to touch. I can see some red from here, but we gotta travel a bit more to reach it. Then we get to the bridge and can experience this game's new feature, grinding the rails, which we can do on this red railing all the way across. Hopefully we see that done more often. And in DK Spaceport, as much as I would love to make it all the way to the robot Donkey Kong section, shouldn't really be necessary because the railings are very red and all over this place. This one is super quick, as anyone could see when looking at this course. Man, now I'm just having fun with this game. Desert Hills, as you might expect, does not have a lot of red in it. Sometimes the sand in the Mario universe does fit that, but not in this case. Although, one interesting thing is these signs on the side of the track. The foo signs right at the start are very solidly red and can get the job done for now. Shy Guy Bazaar thankfully has a lot more color throughout it. There are some rails here that we can barely get up to using the hills in front, and we see plenty of clear options as we drive over into the main part of the village. Yeah, nice to see this track return. You would think that Wario Stadium would fit with what we're going for here, but actually the walls are all pink. Did not know that was his style, but I'll tell you what is his style. Fire. And he does happen to have red burn barrels on the sides to make that happen. I would not recommend driving into those in any other context though. Stay safe out there. And then Airship Fortress is obviously really easy. Probably don't even have to say anything. The finish line has red on it. Easy as that. This is definitely our fastest track so far, but I still went through and found many more rails to ride along that are the perfect color. I could even use the glider again and hit this flag on the side. Now we're to the cup, which is much more snow-themed. And on DK Pass, probably not going to find too much color on a snowy mountain, but at least we do still have those striped lines on the side. And if you're looking for something a little different, there's always the cones right past that point, which rock the same shade. That's basically the only options we have. Starview Park actually pulls a little bit of an ice outpost on us and has a green and yellow split on the road. Is that just a theme for cold tracks or something? Because of that, it kind of makes you work for the red in this one. There is absolutely nothing the entire way, but they showed a little bit of mercy at the end by having a massive red carpet for the indoor section. Gotta make this look nice for the Lumas. Now, yes, technically I could have just backed up to get here, but this game specifically does not like that, and it would feel lame finding it before the starting line. Now, you'll see what what I'm talking about with going backwards in Sky High Sundae. Because despite all the color here, not much red. Well, there are the rails in the middle, but I questioned wanting to take those. There had to be something ice cream related, and there kind of was, but it was in a weird way. See, like I said earlier, there's certain spaces for you to travel from one track to the next in a Grand Prix, and we can see the tunnel we take down here, but if we go too far in, Lakitu pulls us away. However, it is possible to get just far enough in and hop to touch the red strawberry. Seriously, it is super close for this one. Then Wario Shipyard is much more simple. We still have to drive a little bit on the track, but once we reach the water section, there's some very easy buoys placed as barriers here that are clearly red. I like how we can mix it up sometimes. Koopa Troopa Beach is pretty short, but it's got some red in it. Surprisingly, it does let us drive all the way to the wall and peek up onto this deck to tap this red sign again. Also, I suppose it would only be fitting if we drove right into a Cheep Cheep here. A Faraway Oasis is another that's looking very safari themed and not very red based. I drove around just about the whole thing and saw nothing. And there might have been nothing, but thank goodness for safety. Yep, right at the end as we go around the waterfall, driving all the way up leads us to another cone on the edge. And this one is much more solid as well. And now we kind of already did Crown City in the first cup, but I'll go a little deeper and drive into a fire hydrant this time. And now the water is going crazy and whoa! I didn't know that was a thing in this game. And to actually finish this cup, we have Peach Stadium. Yes, this is completed very fast because of the edge stripes. But in order to not be boring, I'll just tell you about this thing. So everything on Peach tracks are mostly pink, obviously, but there are some things she decorates that are red, like the roof of some parts of the castle, although none of those are a part of the track, but that won't stop us. Sure, technically Lakitu grabbed me as soon as I touched it, but look, my cart clearly made physical contact. Well, look at that. 2 Peach courses back to back because now we're in Peach Beach. I did do a bit of exploring to find red at the start, but the only good options seem to be once we approach the water. There are so many great things here like Shy Guys on jet skis, amazing, and a Yoshi fast food restaurant. I thought it was red from a distance, and then I realized it probably fits more into the orange category. So I guess for red, I gotta just go to the basic signs. Or if for some reason you want something more solid, there is another cone in the water. The Salty Speedway. I'm gonna be real, this one is no problem. There is so much red here. However, we start in the water, whereas most of it is up on the shore. So we're kind of stuck down here and can't reach the red stairs until completing a full lap. But we can still finish this quickly by hopping and just barely grazing those red flowers on the wall. Good enough. For Dino Jungle, there's the finish line, I think. Red signs, awesome red rails to ride. Yeah, there is no shortage of it here either. And in Great Question Mark Block Ruins, we have everybody's favorite enemy showing up to help us, the Piranha Plant. Even if they poof away right as we touch them, a contact was made. It counts. For some reason, Cheep Cheep Falls fits this theme of like a Japanese temple. There's generally a lot of red in those things, as clearly shown here. Some of it is a little too high for us to touch, but there is still this table on ground level. In Dandelion Depths, we really don't have to go that far because there is the classic red finish line, and it appears we're in the Para-Bitty-Bud construction zone. So, the girders right next to us are also red. Boo Cinema goes for a darker horror type of theme, but we are still going into a movie theater, and they like to roll out the red carpet for that. Literally, on the floor and most of the decorations, it still has that color. And Drybone's Burnout is probably the toughest out of this cup because there's no immediate red, but it can't stay away for too long. A little up the track, and we find what we're looking for. There's some wood on the walls that I guess is painted somewhat to be red. See, that's the safe option, but the fun option is to hop this gap and hit the cones across the lava. I mean, we do get called out for it, but not before the touch is made. Moo Moo Meadows, a classic course from the Wii. Although, in this challenge, it does get a little old seeing the same signs over and over again. But I should be thankful it's here, because that's really it for this track. Outside of that, and the bigger sign in front of the stands, Choco Mountain, this one does not have red signs right at the start. And basically, anything red that I did see was not in an ideal location. However, it's made up for, because if there was one track whose theme was going to get me the color red, it's this. Simply because of the Charge and Chucks. I would feel pretty satisfied driving into their red shoes just like this. Toad's Factory. I had a feeling that we'd be able to touch red here, seeing as that's the popular color for the fan favorite character, and I will gladly get to this section of the factory we all know and love to drive right into that machine. And in Bowser's Castle, I really don't have to say much. There is a red metal road right in front of us as we pass the finish line. Then it basically continues for the entire thing, so not much of a question here. 1 cup to go, and we start with the Acorn Heights. Here's another where the finish line is red. Not too surprising when you see all of the Toad tree houses up there and the bounceable mushrooms deeper in the course. We may not have a Mushroom Gorge in this game, but we do still have a way to work those red bounce pads in here. I'm sure you could guess how Mario Circuit went, because they've always stuck with this classic design on the walls with 4 colors. Red included, of course. I love it. Then on our way to the last track, we do stop by Peach Stadium again, but we've already seen those roofs. So let's look at the final track, Rainbow Road. Perfect for this month. You would think this would be super easy for any color. And yeah, it kind of is. There's certain tiles on the ground that switch between colors. And over on the left, if we sit here, we will eventually be sitting on a red space at some point. But is that too easy? And should we find something more solidly red? If you don't care, you're all good. But if you're curious, there's no solid red for a while here, because after the first section, there's all this water that we go through, and then just the cool colors on the road ahead. It's not until we approach the last section that we see the red as we're flying forward. Now the side of these roads has the color we're looking for. But either way, this track has so many colors that of course we were gonna clear it. Alright, well that's every track for this game, and I had a lot of fun doing this. Let me know if I should do more of this series, because I would love to keep playing this game. It's pretty awesome. But for now, that's all I got. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone.